Lorenzo, in copywriting, one of the techniques that we use to radically improve our copy is we incorporate a 24-hour break between the first draft and the second draft. And then similarly from the between the second draft and the third draft, it's also known as the ingestion period. The idea is that, when you're, especially when you're working on something creative, you're trying to kind of communicate an idea. Sometimes you have these like writer's block that develop, not writer's block like in a complete sense where you can't write, but you don't have the right analogy to explain something, or the sentence doesn't flow properly, or maybe point number 3 should actually be higher than point number 2, and you kind of get stuck in this, and you can keep on forcing your way through it. But I don't really think good writing comes by forcing your way through it. What I have found personally is that when I go to sleep and I wake up the next morning and I kind of look at it again, subconsciously my brain is still processing all of that information. And invariably, I have a whole bunch of new insights that I hadn't considered before that are the same kind of content, but just framing it in a more readable, nice, well-flowing way. I think that same principle, and I already apply that, but I think that same principle applies to developing ideas and developing test concepts and stuff like that. And I know that a lot of the listeners are used to us talking about technical details like Google Tag Manager and site speed and other things that are ways to improve conversion rates. But I think there's also general life skills that I think can apply to conversion optimization. So what do you think about this idea of like a 24-hour break and revisiting? And, is this something that you apply as well? And have you found any value in it as well?
Yeah, it's very interesting. The way I think about this is like, you have just spent so much time thinking about something. So you have put so much energy and mental work into thinking about something that you're in like your state of mind is like super hot, right? Your brain is very, very hot because all you've been thinking about is that thing, right? That could be a 10 minutes thinking because maybe you need to come up with like a new LinkedIn post, or that could be an entire sales copy and it took you like 3 hours to write it, right? But you just put a lot of effort into it, right? And then, so now you're kind of like super committed into that thinking, right? It's kind of like, when they interview soccer players right at the end of the game, right? When they're like super, super still like they feel a dopamine because they just like either won or lost and so on. And they try to say a lot of things that, maybe like the day after they would have never said, right?
Correct.
That's kind of like that thinking, like your brain is so differently wired the day after or 12 hours after compared to before, just because, the state of mind is completely different. And I oftentimes do that for my LinkedIn post. I oftentimes write my LinkedIn post, like during the weekend and then for the entire week. And then, in the morning when I have to like publish them, like, oh, does this still make sense? Like, is this still juicy or not? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very useful, in publishing, for example, we have an editor, and the whole purpose of the editor is to actually look at it with a fresh pair of eyes. So this 24-hour break idea, you can even kind of like I personally am a fan of like doing it with myself, in the sense that if I'm working on an idea, this is a really important concept. This is a very important point. This should be a totally different video as well, and we'll talk about this. But ideas are like babies. They're very fragile. I don't like to put out ideas. I would not go to Lorenzo and say, hey, Lorenzo, I'm working this idea. What are your thoughts? Because I respect his opinion so much that his opinion will influence my thinking, and the idea hasn't fully taken shape yet. So I like to do the editing process myself with myself because I need to nurture it. But you could, if you're a CEO and you don't have the time for it, you could have the review be done by someone else. So there are many ways of doing it, but the whole idea is to be able to revisit something that you're working on the next day or after, and it shouldn't be so. Here's the other thing: the 24-hour window is a very important one because it's still fresh in your mind. Your brain is still integrating that information. If you say that I'm going to revisit it next week, you'll actually have a completely different set of ideas, and you might not even have the context. Like, why the hell did I even use this line? So context matters. So I think the 24-hour window is the most effective. I hope this helps, guys. If you have someone who could benefit from it, please do share it. Please like the video as well. And we will see you again with yet another episode. Take care. Ciao.
Thank you.